Hello, welcome to Discourse 9 of the Philosophical Integration series, June 2020. The theme of this particular discourse is deepening our philosophic practice. How can we do that in our lives? And what are the deeper purposes of the philosophic path? Now, the path of philosophic integration of mystical experiences isn't very popular because it's very demanding. It's very demanding on one's ego. It requires a high level of discipline and it takes a long time to get the rewards or to see the fruits of your practice. So it's like a delayed gratification thing. So all of those things combined can make the path very unappealing for many, especially if you're used to instant gratification, mystical experiences. But the truth is, when you make some effort on the philosophical path and persevere to do a deeper spiritual work, you do start to manifest the fruits and the karmic positive rewards in your life for engaging with that spiritual practice. You won't in the beginning, there'll be like a dry period where you're kind of like trekking through the desert and there doesn't appear to be much spiritual sustenance there. The intensity and the woo factor of mystical experiences is behind, and the deeper power of philosophic integration has not yet become manifest in one's life. So it's like a bardo zone that every student that chooses to walk this path will have to go through. You can have the descent of grace, you can heal the polarity and the divisions within your own heart, you can be boosted up with a lot of grace, energy from star beings, but then you have to use that to do a deeper philosophical inquiry as to the whole purpose of what your awareness is even doing here in a body on earth at this time. And there's so many complex facets of reflecting upon our earthly and spiritual experiences. It takes a lifetime, this is the truth. Once you have the fortunate conditions in place in the earthly, once you've tidied up your karma with the human race, with the matrix, once you've cracked the mastery of financial sustenance in your life, and once you've made some serious progress in terms of purifying the body to assimilate the higher energies, you're going to break through into a space of consciousness that very few humans actually go. The reason why so few humans actually go into those spaces is firstly they're repelled because it doesn't appease their ego, and secondly many humans can't actually undergo the degree of karmic purification required to make the astral grades and enter into a more established position on the philosophic path. If you're on the mystical path of taking a lot of ayahuasca or having mystical experiences through various other means, if you try and push forward into the path of philosophy, deeper contemplation, and meditation in monastic conditions, if you try and do that before you've become fully purified for that path, you can meet up against a lot of resistances, or you can become totally disillusioned and spin out, and then you might have a temptation to descend back into human life and explore its many vices. One of the important things to do when you're on the path of philosophic inquiry and contemplation is to be aware of the many vices that can trap your awareness. When you have a lot of detachment from the karmic wheel, when you've released a lot of your human form, you'll be able to witness, because you'll see in your awareness very obviously that the human world is filled with many traps and vices that can either snag awareness or trap your energy. And it's important to notice what they are and to avoid going into those spaces in yourselves to alleviate the perceived intensity of the philosophic path. You know, if the bulk of your human life as you know it is gone and you're living in semi-monastic conditions, or you're living in a total monastery set up with monks, you know, many people just cannot handle that because it's not sustaining. In that they're not getting enough of the higher energy harmonized in their being to fuel the deeper demands of the spiritual path. You know, the deeper spiritual path, it's rigorous, it's disciplined, it's work, and sometimes it takes a lot of time to actually see the results bearing fruit in your physical life, in your emotional life, and in your spiritual progress. You know, it takes a lot of work to make those astral grades, and sometimes it comes at a lot of personal sacrifice in terms of what you have to give up, in terms of your connections to the ordinary human world, to be able to have a strong sporting chance at attaining the higher grades in your practice and actually holding that energy for the remainder of your life without having a big energy blow up. So if you're going to make a lot of advancement on the path of philosophy, you better be well integrated and familiar with yourself. You want to have purified a lot of your shadow, and then you better be able to live with the awareness of yourself, of your being, free from the many distractions, because once you take away many of the distractions and the vices in the outer world, you're going to have a very intense experience of yourself, and the many experiences that you had in your life previously that you haven't properly reflected upon and integrated into your consciousness, that will come up as a work to be done. One of the tasks of contemplation of your whole life is ideally to turn over again every single experience you've had and come into a deeper understanding of it. So you do that with your earthly experiences, your emotional and karmic lessons. You turn over everything so that you fully understand, and also you turn over a lot of your awareness to exploring again in detail the nature and meaning of your mystical experiences. And this life had many thousands of experiences with astral beings, ETs, star beings. I went to the central suns, and the whole experience of meeting these star beings totally and utterly transformed my life and nudged me onto a very different trajectory. So the practice in my life is to come to a deeper understanding and meaning of all of those experiences, and how can I make a deeper philosophic sense of that in the human form and use it to live out the rest of my earthly days in a space of deeper awareness and consciousness, whilst holding my energy and maintaining a love and compassion for the human race and the realm of sentient beings going through all kinds of processes in the karmic wheel when it appears that I'm not, and I'm like sat on the outside witnessing all of this going through my awareness on the periphery. So it takes a lot of awareness to reflect upon all of that, your life, your relationship with the karmic wheel, your lessons, your purpose, contemplating what you're doing on earth. And at the same time, you've got to maintain your body, stay in good health, keep the physical vehicle purified. You want to stay emotionally sustained and in a space of integration of love in your relationships, in your own being. You know, it's a very tall order. You will get to the point where you have to liberate the energy of your entire life to dedicate yourself to that spiritual work. So what you'll be looking to do is to recapitulate as much energy as you can from your involvement with the human world, doing it appropriately and sustainably, and then redirecting that freed up energy that you've liberated by working through your human karma and redirecting it to the contemplation of the deeper spiritual truths and giving a lot of energy, effort to your process of ascension, whatever that means for you. It requires so much energy to stay sustained on the advanced spiritual path. You must do that energy recapitulation and the review of your earthly, worldly life in order to free up enough energy to put and invest in the continuance of your spiritual evolution. Sooner or later, the demands of the path become very high, so sooner or later, a voluntary brahmacharya becomes a bit more mandatory. It's necessary to tidy up your interactions with the human world. You'll find a lot of different forms of work aren't suitable for you, and ultimately you'll find almost all of the time, 99% of the time, you'll be having nothing to do with the outer world, and you'd be dedicating your awareness to your inner spiritual practice. But that's got to work for you in the bigger picture. You know, I say and Ryan several times is so good and fortunate to have 20 years of your spiritual path, 20 years of your life free, so that you can dedicate yourself to the deeper inquiry and making this bigger process on the spiritual path. But it has to work for you, it has to be sustaining, you have to have all the different aspects that will support your energy on hand and integrated into your awareness. One doesn't want to become a neurotic recluse, or one doesn't want to just remove oneself from humanity and take lots of plant medicine, ayahuasca, and become out of balance. Or one doesn't want to hit a massive crisis and then dive headlong into the human world again to seek some kind of refuge and solace from the very extreme and demanding nature that the deeper path ultimately presents to people that have the courage and will to walk it. In my experience, the intensity and the near solitude of my personal path is only possible through an integration of love and being open to the divine grace. It's getting help from the gods and the star beings and making sure that astrally and spiritually, in terms of my relationship with source, that's working properly and being sustained, and I'm getting enough of the pranic download energy I need to be able to balance out the steely energy of the very concentrated philosophic mind energy that can sometimes manifest as a result of having this extremely concentrated astral energy. When that's merged with the piercing nature of an inquiring mind, that can become extremely steely. It can give you access to a lot of very high knowledge. You can have a really strong look into the astral, but to balance out that steeliness, you have to be able to continuously be tuned in with that grace and be living in a vibration of love. So one of the aspects also of the philosophic path is to enter into a deeper understanding of what love is. What is source love or universal love? What do those concepts mean for me? And when I find in practice these experiences of love come to me, then the spiritual work is to use that energy and to do some deeper inquiry as to where it's coming from, the origin of the love. It's that origin that we're seeking to know in philosophic practice. Origin is our source. Many of us have plugged in to receive insights and understandings with source. We have a relationship with the source, but even on very advanced paths, the source is still in some other place until we reach the time on the path where we can totally be harmonized with source, and very many separations between us and the energy of origin are totally unified in our being. When you get to the stage where I'm at on the path and you've had the kinds of trials and tribulations and experiences I've had, and when you've undergone the many karmic purifications in the emotions, in the body, in terms of earthly lessons, life, and then integrating the lessons that come with being aware of one's twin flame, I can tell you, once you've undergone all of that purification, if you stick through with it and remain determined and have a lot of willpower, you get into a space where you're actually very close to God. And basically what's happened is the energy of your physical form and the energy of source, like two different energies, have almost become one. You've almost become totally and utterly merged with the creator source. You won't have done that fully. If you can do that fully, you will fully ascend. What I understand is when you go through all this purification, you come out the other side, you're in a karma-free grace state, so you can live very close to the source or God without any obstructions in the way. Then your whole life becomes very astral. It's very easy to have the access. You've done the brahmacharya, you've done the meditation, you've done the purification of your body, you left the plants away, and you've burned off a lot of your earthly karma. So there's absolutely nothing in the way, and you have an extreme amount of seeing power. When you have these experiences, the energies of the central galactic sun, in my experience, return, the visions return, but in a far more harmonized and integrated way. It's then the path of philosophic contemplation and the transcendence of mysticism. The path is to understand what all that is, what are the central suns, what is the source, what is the purpose of having all of these experiences, because of the extreme changes that it's facilitated in life. One is confronted with some very big questions like, where am I going? What's happened to my human form? What's the truth about physical ascension? Leaving so much behind and becoming far more unified with the energy of Source or God or the star beings. This is a very alien and unusual reality to live in, yet it has a very strong and real truth to it. So the philosophic path is about making sense of it. It takes years and years and years in a human form to make sense of these many mystical experiences, and it's in the making sense of those experiences and integrating them into your earthly awareness that a deeper spiritual work is achieved, and the payback is the descent of grace and a deeper harmony and union with your own source. Only you can know how far each point to take your journey in terms of attaining a deeper union with the source. It kind of happens in degrees, but when it comes to the far more advanced stages of the path, a much deeper and purer harmonization with the energy of source, you will have to have the conditions in place and the discipline and the mindset to walk the philosophic path with determination, intention, faith, and will to follow it through till the very end. The very end of the philosophic path is, in my experience, to become fully merged with God and to become fully ascended. In the interim, it's realistic to aim and focus on the path of being semi-ascended in the human form, and what it means to be semi-ascended in the human form will be the topic of the 10th discourse that I'll follow on with shortly. So for now, I'll leave it there, and people listening to the discourse can integrate, reflect upon everything I've said, and allow what's being said to do a deeper work, because it's less about the words that come through my being. It's more about the energy behind that has an energy to it, and it's a higher dimensional communication. And if you're really attuned to this path, you'll be able to derive some meaning from what I've said. So I'll leave it there, and I'll be speaking to you again in Discourse 10. Free Spirit out.